Films and TV shows have tackled basically every important issue we face today, so it's no surprise that there's a wide range of portrayals of climate change in media.
This planet is dying. The human race is killing it.
From our earliest environmental dystopias to modern-day satire to utopian visions of the future, we've long explored possibilities involving climate change.
New York City, in the year 2022. Nothing runs anymore. Nothing works.
Of course, not all representation is good representation, even in the case of climate change. The nuances behind the climate crisis make it difficult to get right, and even more difficult to present in an engaging, Hollywood-ready format. That said, though there have been plenty of subpar portrayals, filmmakers also can and do address climate change in effective ways. Let's break down climate change on screen. There's some main ways that climate change has been consistently represented on screen. First, most obviously, is nonfiction. There are a wide array of documentaries available that are probably the most accurate and effective source of facts and information on climate change.
This is why we have to take action now.
However, these films can also be less accessible and only appeal to those who are already engaged in conversations about climate change. Some films choose to fictionalize real events, like Erin Brockovich, which is the dramatization of a real story of a woman fighting against an energy company. These kind of true stories can bring light to important issues while also being engaging and relatable. Embarrassment films, as I've chosen to call them, consist of filmmakers looking with embarrassment at our lack of climate action and essentially saying, man, we're stupid, aren't we?
The question I've been asking is, why didn't we save ourselves when we had the chance?
The focus of these films is humanity's inability to recognize the threat of climate change, often with devastating effects. While these tend to draw attention to important issues and focus on the causes of climate change, they rarely present realistic solutions, or solutions at all. Nihilistic films encompass both climate disaster films and dystopias.
The polar ice caps have melted, and the Earth lies beneath a watery grave.
They also generally don't address solutions, but they don't address causes either. They mostly just exist for entertainment value, as well as, in some cases, communicating the severity of climate change. But accuracy definitely isn't their top concern.
Day After Tomorrow, they played for the camera, not for the science.
Though there are some thought-provoking dystopias created here, this genre often presents climate change as distant and unrealistic, as huge, easily perceivable disasters, not as a gradual degradation of the world around us.
It's too immediate. Global warming gets you slowly.
However, even in these less than ideal portrayals, there is a positive impact. This graph shows people's likelihood of taking various eco-friendly actions as a result of watching Day After Tomorrow, a film that's largely unrealistic but conveys much of the urgency of the climate crisis. Lastly, there's a lot of climate change allegories within media, from the more on the nose to extremely abstract.
And then there's also another bigger metaphor going on underneath it, which is this idea that we are all living on this one planet with one mother who gave us life, and how do we treat her?
While these can make interesting criticisms of the world's response to climate change,
This is serious.
I don't think it's serious at all. I think it's another bad joke.
they can also border on impossible to understand, and often the allegorical climate change is just defeated by some epic battle. However, simpler analogies can find an effective balance of being understandable while not feeling too preachy. Don't Look Up, which I promise not to spoil, is a not-so-subtle metaphor for climate change, though it can also be interpreted as simply addressing willful ignorance as a whole.
At this very moment, I say we sit tight and assess.
Without a doubt, it has good aspects, it makes some interesting points, and overall is pretty funny. Admittedly, many of the criticisms made of this film are made by climate deniers, but there is one criticism that I think needs to be raised. Don't Look Up exists to raise awareness and prompt urgent action on climate change. The director himself said that he hopes it inspires conversation, critical thinking, and makes people less tolerant of inaction from their leaders. But who are the people who need to be informed on climate change? Not the scientists and activists who enjoyed the film. Actually, the people who need to be more active on climate change are the exact people this film makes fun of. Along with raising awareness, a big point of the film is just poking fun at climate deniers and policymakers. And justifiably so. We've seen a lot of dumb things happen lately politically. But a movie with numerous jokes aimed at mocking people who don't believe in or are ignoring climate change isn't going to sway those people over. If anything, it's going to alienate them even more. While it may feel good to laugh at others' stupidity, it ultimately does nothing but widens the divide between those taking action and those who aren't. It has some positive aspects, but in the end, the film largely targets the wrong people. Though Don't Look Up isn't perfect, it still signals a positive shift in the representation of climate change in the media. One next step is moving towards solutions, not just examining causes.
Well, somebody has to do something!
At the moment, most films don't address solutions at all, and those that do so with magic abilities or aliens.
I came to save the Earth.
We're in desperate need of solutions fueled by actual human choices, with people taking action at the heart of the story. With the rise of climate nihilism, this is especially relevant.
I know that nothing can change, and I know there is no hope.
Over 1/3 of people believe that humanity can't or won't stop climate change, and by some counts, up to 98% of environmental news stories are negative.
We're not meant to save the world. We're meant to leave it.
So what we're really in need of isn't more doomsday stories. One important step forward would be to focus on creating satire and allegories that don't feel quite so preachy, yet remain understandable. This is a difficult line to find, but that's okay, because not all climate change films need to be metaphorical. Filmmakers don't need to shy away from works that are just objectively about climate change.
It's reached the tipping point. We have to act.
Some of the best climate change films currently showcase the impacts and nuances of climate change to bring light to the topic, whether this be by just appreciating nature,
there is a magical world where wondrous creatures play the day away,
or by taking an intersectional lens that dissects how the climate crisis relates to other issues, like colonialism or poverty. Even if solutions aren't addressed as directly, there's definite value in these types of works. That said, the future of climate change in the media needs to include solutions, putting people taking action at the heart of their stories.
We suggest a ban on all marine harvesting.
Because as important as awareness is, knowledge without action often just creates despair. Films can also create tangible differences by taking the initiative to direct viewers to ways they can help.
And if we don't want a repeat of the excess and wastefulness of the 20th century, then we need to teach our kids about this planet.
I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't offer any course of action after saying that, so here's that. There's a lot of climate organizations with groups all over the place, and these can be a great place to start. Fridays for Future has a map of climate strikes, Earth Guardians has crews all over the place centered around youth in particular, and 350.org has a similar map function. Chances are there's a climate group near you, and I recommend reaching out.
We can change. We could still turn things around.
Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed. I know this video is a little bit different than many of my other ones, but hopefully it was interesting nonetheless, and I'll see you next time.